Good evening, welcome to Central News for Thursday the 15th of August. I'm Hilary Entwistle. In today's news, more than 16 people a week are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in the Bay of Plenty, and some are saying medications are just masking the problem. Obesity and type 2 diabetes are on the rise across the nation, and healthy lifestyle advocate Lee Elder claims the solution is in education. Lee says his program Eat for Keeps has reversed many clients' type 2 diabetes diagnosis, and the key is lifestyle changes.
Look, in New Zealand there's over 1 million people with type 2 diabetes or at risk. Health authorities are saying this is going to get worse. We totally disagree. The truth of the matter is that we know, we've just talked about this, that type 2 diabetes is caused by having too much glucose in the blood.
Construction of Cambridge's Advantage-Dome is racing ahead of schedule and is expected to open March 2014. High Performance Sport New Zealand, Cycling New Zealand and the University Waikato are a few of the many organisations that will have permanent offices in the building. Chief Executive of the Home of Cycling, Jeff Baum, says the Advantage-Dome may be ready for some top athletes to start using the track at Christmas, but the grand opening is planned for March.
It's going really, really well. We're on time and we're on budget, and you can't ask for anything more than that. We hope that the wind stops in the next couple of days because we're trying to get the roof finished, and the sheets of iron that are going on there are 27 metres long, so we can't have people working up on the roof when the wind's blowing like it is, so fingers crossed.
Now for our region's weather, Hamilton, your Friday will have rain developing and it may be heavy at times. Your expected high is 15 and an overnight low of 8. Rain developing in the afternoon for you Tauranga and fresh northerlies. Your expected high is 16 and an overnight low of 10. Just ahead, marine science under the microscope. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. As part of the Western Bay at Work initiative, the University of Waikato has been showcasing their Marine Centre of Excellence in Tauranga. I went along to find out what career a qualification in marine science can lead to.
It's not like going and doing a degree in law or engineering where you kind of come out the end of it and you might end up as a lawyer or an engineer. It's there's a whole bunch of different career pathways you can go down. So some of the obvious ones are becoming a marine scientist at a university or at a kind of government research institution such as NIWA. There's also kind of private research institutions. You could end up working in a regional council either as a scientist or an advisor on a sort of policy job. You could also end up at sort of government agencies such as the Ministry for Primary Industries, which was formerly the Ministry of Fisheries, Department of Conservation. You could end up as a school teacher teaching science. There's careers in big areas now are sort of aquaculture, biotechnology, looking at biofuels, getting drugs from the ocean. So marine science isn't just biology; it's also chemistry and physics, and so it's a really broad field. You could end up doing all sorts of things.
What are some of the events that you have planned for the Western Bay at Work initiative?
Well, for the marine science component of it, there's really two events. The first event was the Careers Expo and Business Showcase. That was at the ASB Arena on Friday and Saturday just gone. And then tonight we're having the Marine Science Under the Microscope, which is essentially an open evening for the Marine Field Station. We're going to have people come in and kind of see what we do and see what marine science is all about, and kind of if you do embark on a study path in marine science, where it might take you.
Marine science under the microscope, what is it all about?
I think it's all about trying to tell the people of Tauranga what it is that we do and why we do it. So I think the Marine Field Station here has only been open for just over a year, and I guess we're trying to engage with the community and really let them know what we're doing. And so we're going to have a number of speakers that are going to be talking. We've got science teachers, we've got people who work at the university, people who are environmental consultants, and they're going to be, I guess, talking about kind of their journey to the job that they've got. We've got some displays running, we've got some activities running, kind of showing some of the work we do. So you're going to have the opportunity to come and sort through some environmental samples, pull out some animals, throw them under the microscope and try and figure out what they are.
So what are some of the research projects that you're working on?
So I guess a lot of what we've done in the last year has been to do with RINA for obvious reasons. So we're just finishing up our kind of large, kind of long-term RINA monitoring project, and those kind of reports are currently under review, and that'll all be released shortly. I've also got kind of work related to the RINA, where we're looking at, I guess in more general terms, looking at the consequences of oil in the marine environment, so trying to understand what happens to the biology when you add oil to it, what are some of the ways you can clean up the oil, looking at sort of the microbiology associated with oil. So there's kind of that aspect to my work. Also got a project starting up with looking at larval fish and how they use Tauranga Harbour. So we've been catching snapper that are about sort of 7 or 8 millimetres long, definitely undersized. But yeah, it's just, no one really knows where a lot of those really small fish are. So between the eggs hatch out in the ocean, the adults end up somewhere else, but it's kind of that sort of transitional stage, which is a bit of a mystery. So we really want to look at which species are using the harbour, which times of year they're using the harbour, which parts of the harbour they're using. And if we can get a bit more information about that, figure out where these kind of critical kind of habitats are for the different life history stages, we can make sure that kind of development doesn't necessarily interfere with those kind of biological pathways. Also got some projects looking at some invasive seaweeds. I've got a project going in the Coromandel looking at the seaweed called Undaria, which is a pretty aggressive kelp.
What have been some of the findings of the RINA stuff?
So from a kind of the whole Bay of Plenty perspective, the impacts appear to be very, very negligible. There are potentially a few hot spots where there might be some sort of ongoing contamination. We're looking a bit more closely into those. But overall the picture is really positive. One of the areas we're focusing on now is Astrolabe Reef itself. There does appear to be potentially some degree of contamination, and we've got a large research project now which we're working with the regional council and the ship's owners and insurers to really get to the bottom and kind of try and assess the health of the reef. So it's really positive that work's happening now.
What research is the Marine Centre doing into invasive aquatic plants?
So the main species we were looking at is a species called Undaria. It's originally from Asia, but it's kind of spread throughout the world, and it's pretty aggressive. It's doing in New Zealand. It's doing really well down south. It kind of first showed up in Fiordland, I believe, where it's now pretty well established. Northern New Zealand appears to be the sort of the upper limit for this species, and it seems to do really well on man-made structures such as mussel farms, probably fish farms if they go ahead, buoys, marinas, but it just doesn't seem to do well on natural substrates such as the reef. So we're running a program trying to kind of look at competition with native species and just try and figure out what it is that's stopping it taking hold, which is, I guess we're kind of lucky.
If you'd like to find out more about the University of Waikato's Marine Centre and the research they are doing, you can go on their website waikato.ac.nz. Coming up next, we chat with the Prime Minister about the GCSB bill. Welcome back. The GCSB bill has been a much debated issue recently. I talked with the Prime Minister to try to understand what changes of the bill will affect us. The GCSB bill, it's at the Select Committee stage. So what is the next stage?
Well, it's back in Parliament now, actually, so effectively we're debating it, and it's had what's called its committee stage. That means that the different political parties get an opportunity to talk about the individual parts of the bill. Then it has what's called its third reading, has its vote, assuming there's a parliamentary majority, which looks like there will be, and then it becomes law. So we're not too far away from it being law. And I mean, to put it in as simple terms as I can, it's quite a complex issue, but not nearly as either sinister or as exciting as some people might imagine. So GCSB provide the sort of what we would call signals intelligence. So if you wiretap a phone, if you tap into an email system, more often than not, GCSB have the best capability for doing that on behalf of the government. I have another agency called SIS, and they're human intelligence, so think James Bond. Okay, so basically over the course of the last 20 years, they've assisted one another. So in the case of SIS, they might raise a legal warrant that says that they will look at your activities, but if they want to look at your signals intelligence, your phone, your emails, all that sort of stuff, they'll outsource that capability to GCSB. That's been going on for 20 years, nothing new. All we're doing with this law is saying, look, we looked at the old law that Helen Clark passed. We thought it was a bit ambiguous. We weren't quite sure how the courts would interpret it. And so we took the view that it needed to be upgraded. So we've actually narrowed the scope at which GCSB can provide support. And the second thing we've done is dramatically increase the oversight. So when people go on TV and say, it's much broader, they can spy on everybody, all of these things, that's not true. One way of measuring what we're doing is, if you go and have a look at it, there was a report done on GCSB called the Kitteridge Report. Okay, that looked at a number of times that GCSB had provided assistance to SIS, Defence and Police over the last decade. It was 88 occasions. So there are 4.5 million New Zealanders. On average, we're looking at 1 in 500,000 New Zealanders. So when the people say it's wholesale, not true. And to be able to look at you, you need a warrant signed by a former retired High Court judge, agreed to by me and reviewed by a former appeal court judge. So it's a very difficult process.
And some of those definitions have been changed. So can you define information infrastructure?
Probably not the legal definition that they give you, but all of those different definitional changes, it's like private communications, that's something we're doing a bit more work on. They, for a start off, private communications is a legal term used in lots of other bits of law. The Crimes Act has it, the Evidence Act has it. These aren't new terms, but the terms used for what is admissible to court or what can be looked at. So information infrastructure is probably one of those things that says the world's a changing place. So back when the old law was there, Skype wasn't around, you know, people didn't use other types of technology. For instance, recently we actually upgraded the SIS legislation back in about 2010, I think it was, and GCSBs, and that was because, again, mobile technology had changed quite a bit. So, yep, it's like saying you probably use your mobile phone way more than you use a landline these days. You probably communicate with your friends on Facebook. You might have an Instagram, put things up. The devices you use are changing, but kind of fundamentally what you do, well, you might be posting a bit more information online, but outside that, nothing's much changed in the 20 years, whatever.
Some are saying that the bill has been rushed. Do you think you're rushing it?
Not really. I mean, so what happened was back in the middle of last year, when we first started looking at this issue and it was getting raised, we decided at one point we should stop all of the assistance. So for the last 12 months, we haven't been providing assistance as we had over the previous 20 years. So the point is, if we don't pass the law, we can't go back to providing assistance. So at one level, that's a chink in our armour, so we need to resolve that. Secondly, it's gone through a public hearing. So GCSB's and intelligence legislation generally isn't normally heard in public. So there's a whole lot of reasons for that, but they're not normally heard in public. This one was. So having more time isn't going to change the opposition to this bill. So some people that are opposed because they're civil libertarians, they don't trust the state, they don't want people prying on them, they have a slightly warped view in some cases of what the state might be interested in and what's not. They're generally wrong, but they live in that world that they believe that's the case. And so they put a bit of a fear into the vast bulk of New Zealanders who have nothing to fear. From my point of view, I have to balance a minor invasion of privacy on a very small number of New Zealanders for the national security, national interest of the country. And I reckon we've got that balance about right.
Section 8C is about the cooperation function of the GCSB. This is the one that people are submitting against, saying that it could turn, it into a domestic surveillance agency. You have made changes around that to prevent confusion. So what are those changes?
Yeah, okay. So basically, if you go back to the old law, this is a very technical debate for people, but under the old law, Section 14 said you can't spy against New Zealanders. Section 8 under the old law said actually you kind of can if you're doing a few other things that was very obscure. That was the bit that we started looking at saying, how does Section 14, a specific part of the law, actually interact with Section 8, which is general, and in legal terms, generally specific trumps general, but in this case they always believed it was all right. We started looking at saying not quite so sure. So it can't turn into a domestic spying agency, because to do that, well, we would have to raise warrants, and the only warrants we raise against New Zealanders are ones to assist SIS. It's actually under their warrant. So to get a warrant against a class of New Zealanders is very difficult to do.
Next week, we will bring you the rest of our interview with the Prime Minister. Coming up next, tickets are on sale for the Tauranga Arts Festival. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. Tickets went on sale this morning for Tauranga Arts Festival's 80 events. I caught up with Claire from the festival to find out what we can expect. So tickets went on sale this morning, so how can we get our hands on some?
You can go to the website, which is www.taurangafestival.co.nz, or you can call Ticket Direct on 0800 224 224.
And when will the festival be?
It's 24th of October until the 3rd of November.
You have 80 performances, so let's start with some of the big ones. There's a circus coming.
The circus is called Knee Deep, and it's from a really incredible Australian company called Cassis. And there are 4 performers, and there's 1 woman and 3 men, and they do things that you don't expect human bodies to be able to do, and they're amazing.
So it's not your average, ordinary circus by the sounds of it?
No, it's, I think I would describe it in terms of dance and gymnastics, but then the classic circus tricks like high ropes, that it's just kind of phenomenal. It's an hour of how do they do that.
What can we expect at the big yellow community day?
So that day is on the 26th of October, so it's the Saturday, which is the beginning of Labour weekend, first weekend of summer. And it's a day that we program all sorts of things happening in the Tauranga CBD. So we've got things like the Human Library, which will be happening in the Tauranga City Library. So you can go and you can check out a human book, and you can spend time with a human who can tell you things about a subject that they know about. You can expect some flash mobs of various descriptions. You can expect some art that will pop up in surprising places. You can expect the little big markets. They'll be over creating some atmosphere, and they'll have their crafts and food. You can expect some performance in the TV3 Crystal Palace. There's a lot going on that day.
So what will be happening at the TV3 Crystal Palace?
There's a lot going on. That's where all the magic kind of happens. It's a lot of music, a lot of comedy, a lot of cabaret. So we've got shows like The Words and Music of Jacques Brel. That is 4 New Zealand musicians interpreting the music of Jacques Brel, so it's completely stunning. There's a very good comedy show called Der Roten Punkte, and that's 2 twins from Berlin, and they find it hard to perform because they fight a lot, but their music is very good and very, very funny. And we've got an amazing music lineup. So we've got bands The Eastern who are coming, we've got the Southgate Band, we've got the Shuffle Demons coming all the way from Canada, we've got the Tattletale Saints, and we've got Sal Valentine and the Baby Shakes. So there's a lot of amazing music going on in the tent.
Some famous faces will be at that Silo Theatre event. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Silo Theatre have done the music and words of Jacques Brel, and that's Tama Waipara, Jennifer Ward-Leland, John Toogood and Julia Deans, and yeah, stellar lineup.
What are some of the other theatre highlights?
We've got The Brave coming from Massive Company, which is a knockout show in their 2012 season, and they've revamped it for a new tour, which we're part of. And that's 8 guys, young guys, who get up on stage and kind of reveal the raw truths of their lives in terms of talking to somebody that's meant a lot to them. So it's a really amazing show. It's very funny, and it's very sad, and it's very moving.
What will be happening in the art gallery?
Wow, it's very exciting. We've got a brand new work that's been designed especially for us and for the atrium of the Tauranga Art Gallery, and that's by Gregor Krieger. So he's an extraordinary sculpture artist, and the work that he's designed is called Foucault's Pendulum, which is based on the physicist who designed a contraption that measured the rotation of Earth. So we can expect some amazing things for that atrium coming up.
What about for lovers of dance? What is there for them?
Well, we've got a very special show on a bus, and it's called Back of the Bus by Java Dance Company. And the audience get on board the bus with the dancers, and they go on a ride around Tauranga to some intriguing locations, and the story unfolds as they go.
Now you have a lot planned in the way of music, so what are some of those?
Yeah, we've got some amazing local bands and international bands. So from overseas, we've got the Shuffle Demons, and they're a funk, ska, jazz, crazy collaboration of musicians who were really big in Canada, and they've kind of got a big following over here as well. So there'll be some fans, I imagine. We've also got local bands Tattletale Saints and Sal Valentine and the Baby Shakes. The Tattletale Saints' new album, How Red Is the Blood, has done really, really well over here. And they actually recorded it with Tim O'Brien in Nashville. So he came to the festival in 2009, so it's a nice link up there.
Now you are covering literature as well.
Yeah, we've got the biggest writers and readers program we've ever done. It's very exciting. We're going to be welcoming Graham Simpson, who is the author of The Rosie Project. So he's coming over. We've got the launch of Elizabeth Knox's new novel, Wake. We've got Rob Mundell and his new book on Captain Cook. There's a lot happening. Yeah.
What about if I want to have a laugh?
If you want to have a laugh, you can have a laugh too. Squid Boy and Constantinople. They're two shows that did really well in the Auckland Fringe, and they're coming to us from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And I've seen both of them, and it's hard for me to talk about them without laughing. They're so good. We've also got musical theatre with Miss Fletcher Sings the Blues. So she's a slightly off the hook, risky teacher who'll teach you a thing or two.
What are you predicting that the numbers will be for this year?
It's around about 30,000 to 40,000 who regularly come to the festival.
What do you think this festival kind of brings that other festivals don't to Tauranga?
We bring a real variety and real top quality arts experiences, and it's for absolutely everybody. We've got shows that cover all ideas, all themes, and it's there for you to have a really good time.
Visit taurangafestival.co.nz to find out how to get tickets and to view all the information you need to know about the exciting events. That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved. So like us on Facebook, let us know your views. If you have news including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I will be back tomorrow night with more guests from and around our regions. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.